Hi everyone, this is Teresa at Owl's Nest Quilters. Today's demo will be on the Pearls and Sequins Foot. There's an unusual property to this foot, which is this large groove underneath that will accommodate the large flat sequins and up to 5mm pearls. So this little channel on the bottom is what's going to hang on to your pearls or your sequins and allow you to stitch over them without any trouble. Again, this is a simple clip-on foot. We're going to place this on our machine. And I have a length of pearls here that I'm going to take and I'm going to run them underneath my foot. So you can see with these underneath the foot, they're not going anywhere. This groove is going to hold them in place so that as I sew, I'm not going to lose them. They're not going to go anywhere as long as they're under that foot. So we then take our fabric, which also has a tearaway stabilizer on the back. We're going to slide this underneath the foot. The next thing I'm going to do is select my stitch, which for the pearls is going to be a zigzag stitch. You want to go with the narrowest zigzag that you can so that it doesn't completely cover the pearls but attaches them to your project sufficiently. So I'm going to go for a 3.5mm wide stitch with a stitch length of 1.4. I really prefer to start this process first by rolling my hand wheel towards me a couple of times just to make sure that the stitch is in the proper setting. So if I don't like the setting, if it's too narrow, too wide, too short, too long, I can always adjust that as I need to. If I do a couple of test stitches and find that it's fine, I'm going to go ahead and begin to sew. The neat thing about this particular foot is not only can I sew the pearls, but because of that ridge underneath the foot, I can turn, I can sew in different directions and the pearls will not move. They stayed right under the foot and you can see as they go through the machine, the channel pulls them right into where they need to be. They're not going to move. I'm not going to break a needle. And what comes out the back, I've used a variegated thread so you can kind of see the stitch as it comes out of the back of the machine. But it holds my pearls in place perfectly. If you want to stitch these down with a little bit more of a camouflage, you can use a clear thread so that you can't see the stitching at all. But I used this variegated so that I could show you what the stitch actually looks like. And again, if it's not satisfactory, if you need a longer stitch or you need to adjust it, you can most definitely do that. So we're going to cut this now. And there's our pearls. So the next thing we can do with this foot that's a lot of fun is we can take sequins. This is a string of iridescent sequins that I'm going to stitch down for you. These sequins are called slung. They're on a string, a thread, so that they're all held together in a straight line. What's unique about these is the direction that they go. It's really, really important that these sequins go the correct direction or they'll get hung up under your foot. So the overlap needs to be at the top of each sequence. You don't want to sew them in where the opening is at the bottom. If you do that, then they're going to get hung up on your foot. So we do this essentially the same way we did the pearls. So I'm going to raise this up and I'm going to slide my sequins under there and I'm going to they just kind of snap into the foot. Then I'm going to lower my foot so you can see they're captured underneath the foot just like the pearls were. On my sequins, I really like my stitch width to be a lot wider, mainly because the sequins, if you poke a hole in them, they're made out of plastic and that hole stays there forever and it can look a little unsightly. So I prefer to have a wider stitch for my sequins than I normally do with my pearls. The other thing is, again, if you want a more camouflaged look, I'm using a variegated thread so you can see the thread. But if you want a more camouflaged look, you can use a clear thread. or a thread that more closely matches your sequins color. So once our sequin is under the foot, we're going to begin to sew. And you can see the wide stitching. I'm going to lengthen out my stitch to a 2. You can see the wide stitching goes over the sequins. You really don't want it to interfere with the sequins. You just want it to hold it down. But as I move, I can go sideways. I can curve around, and because my sequins are snapped into the foot, they're not going anywhere. They're going to stay in that foot. And as I guide it around, you can see they stay right where they need to be. Now I will cut, and you can now see my string of sequins that I sewed down. And that is the Pearl and Sequins Foot.